and sound recording in the 6th year of the Academy Awards. If you can imagine that, we just celebrated 95 years with this year's ceremony. In just 2 days, on April 4th, the famed studio celebrates its 100th birthday, and we're thrilled to honor this milestone with a by-the-decade program of films, beginning tonight in the 1930s and working our way through each decade all the way to the 2020s, telling a story of the evolution of not just the studio, but by the nature of its status as one of the 5 majors, the evolution too of filmmaking in Hollywood across the 20th century and into the 21st. The namesake of the company stems from the founding brothers Warner, Harry, Albert, Sam, and Jack. The elder 3 brothers, Sam, Harry, and Albert, were born Shmuel, Hirsch, and Aaron Wonsel in Krasnoshels, Poland, to a Jewish father, a cobbler named Benjamin Wonsel, and their mother, Pearl Leah Eichelbaum. Seeking more opportunities for himself and his 3 children, Benjamin immigrated to Baltimore, Maryland, where he began going by the surname Warner, before moving for a 2-year period to Ontario, Canada, where Jacob, who later took the name Jack, was born. With a span of 11 years between the eldest Harry and the youngest Jack, the elder 3 Warners started their careers in the late 1890s and early 1900s, showing, among other titles, a very well-used copy of The Great Train Robbery in mining towns in Ohio and Pennsylvania with a single touring projector. Beginning in 1903, Harry, Sam, and Albert started acquiring movie theaters, the first being the Cascade in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, which they maintained until breaking out into distribution in 1907, and Jack joined the family business just 2 years later, in 1909. By 1913, the brothers, the 4 of them, began producing their own films, and in 1917, they headed out west to California and Hollywood, establishing and incorporating Warner Brothers Pictures in 1923. A pioneer of films with synchronized sound as early as 1925, just 1 year later, the Warners signed a contract with Western Electric, a sound engineering company, and established Vitaphone, a sound film system used for feature films and over 1,000 shorts by the company, which, of course, helped revolutionize the film industry. The overwhelming financial success of their early sound films, including The Jazz Singer in 27 and Lights of New York in 28, gave the brothers a leg up in the market, and by the end of 1929, nearly all major Hollywood studios were exclusively making sound films. But we all know what else happened in 1929, and though the studio emerged relatively unscathed from the crash of 29 and produced a broad range of films, they went on to make films like crusading biopics, gangster films, women's pictures, and backstage musicals, including the film that you're here to see tonight. 42nd Street is, I think, the ultimate iconic backstage musical, and it introduced a young Ruby Keeler to America and was the first Warner Brothers film for Busby Berkeley, and songwriters Harry Warren and Al Dubin. And I heard that someone related to Harry Warren, his granddaughter, might be here in the audience. Do you want to wave if you're here, Julia?
Oh, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining, Julia. It's really incredible. This is what I love about living in LA, that we have local celebrities here with us just on a Sunday night. Thank you again so much for being here. Mervyn LeRoy was originally scheduled to direct this film, but due to illness was replaced by Lloyd Bacon. Situated firmly within the pre-code era that kicked off in 27 and lasted until 1934, this is not just a glitz and glam musical through and through, but also one rooted in the grim reality of the Depression and the grimy truth of New York City, which in the early 1930s hit 10 million in population, becoming the first megacity in human history. According to AMPUS clipping files, as a publicity stunt, a train called the 42nd Street Special traveled from Hollywood to New York, arriving the day the film opened in New York City. Celebrities including Tom Mix and his horse and chorus girls from the film were on the train. This perhaps accounts for it being one of the top money-making films of the year, taking home $2.3 million at the box office, the equivalent of over $53 million today. As mentioned at the start of the introduction, 42nd Street received Academy Award nominations for Best Picture and Best Sound Recording, and in 2005, 42nd Street was ranked 13th of AFI's Greatest Movie Musicals list. So before we see the film, we're going to see a bumper that was produced by Warner Brothers that highlights this milestone centennial year. We'll be screening this bumper before all of our Oscar Sundays films in April and May. But before the picture starts rolling, please silence your cell phones, extinguish all digital devices, be sure that they're in silent mode or airplane mode. If you need to check the time, you can step out into the stairwell. And remember, there's no eating in the David Geffen Theater. I hope you all have a great time with this film tonight, and I hope to see you back for more of our films in our Warner Brothers Centennial in this ongoing Oscar Sundays program, which next week will move us into the 1940s with the Maltese Falcon. But for now, sit back and please enjoy from 1933, starring Warner Baxter, Beebe Daniels, George Brent, Ruby Keeler, Una Merkel, Dick Powell, and Ginger Rogers, 42nd Street on 35mm. Thank you so much.